There we go. Yes, no, maybe so. Should be good. That's my microphone that came unplugged. Turned on. Everybody's on. Do I have audio now? I do have audio now. Okay, good. I don't know why it does that. It just, for some reason, my noise canceling software that all of my audio funnels through. See, I think I'm all set. Like, oh, I've got this. I'm all good. My screens are all up, and it's always something. Always something when I get ready to do this. But that's okay. So yeah, I have an NVIDIA RTX graphics card in my computer, which is awesome because it has some amazing noise canceling software. And I tell it where my microphone is, and then that becomes, when it funnels through there, that becomes my microphone input for the broadcast software that we're using for OBS, which is the broadcast software that I use to send this out to everybody. The problem is, for some reason, every now and then, that NVIDIA broadcast software, it just isn't there anymore. So I don't know why, because it should, like, even if the machine reboots, it should start up. But anyway, just one of those things that I try to check everything. I need a checklist, like, before a pilot takes off, and they go through their checklist of things. I need that because it's like I always seem to forget something. And like this morning, well, aside from the audio thing, I was getting everything kind of hooked in and doing the titles and all the description and all that good stuff. And I go to check my camera, and then I look at my tripod and notice that I have no camera. My camera is not there because yesterday I took the camera off the tripod and took it down into my studio to take photographs of my last set of bases so that I could get those listed for sale. So kind of hard for me to do the stream without the camera sitting on top of the tripod to send the picture out. But, things happen. It's all good. I went and got it and put it back on. And I have a battery adapter, an AC adapter. So I take the batteries out and plug the AC adapter in. That way I don't have to keep changing batteries during the broadcast and everything else. And it works really well. I don't have anything fancy. I think I've got a Lumix G85. And that's, as a former professional photographer, it's kind of funny that is my only remaining camera. I've had Nikons and I've had a ton of Canons, and I actually was an author and wrote like a best-selling camera series called Snapshots to Great Shots. And I had multiple cameras because a new camera would come out and I would write a book on that camera. And then, after that was done, the next camera would come out. I'd sell that camera and get another one. And so I had tons of cameras and such. And it's funny that this is the only camera I have now, is this Lumix. But it's nice. I took this to Nepal and hiked through the Himalayas with it. It's light. It's the lenses. It's a micro 4/3 sensor. It's not huge, but I don't do a whole lot of like, oh, I'm going to make 30 by 40 wall art with it. If I did, I would get a much larger sensor camera. But anyway, I mean, I kind of miss out on some of the new stuff, but the whole, I mean, in guitar speak, we call it gas, which I guess would equate to the same thing in photography, which is gear acquisition syndrome, where you always are chasing that next thing to make your photography better. And, there is no silver bullet for photography stuff. I've taken great pictures with my iPhone. Don't fall over, photographers, for me saying that, but it's true. I can take great pictures with my iPhone. I take great pictures with this G85. When I went to Cambodia, I think I took a D70, a Nikon D70, which is a very small, it's like a 12 megapixel camera. This was back in 2006 when I went to Cambodia for like 8 days. And I took some of the best photographs I've ever taken in my life with that camera. And because, as my friend Scott says, if you want to take amazing photographs, stand in front of an amazing subject. I mean, that's really what it is. So you have to go somewhere where you got just epic scenery and you'll take epic photos. And it's not really about the camera as much as knowing how to use the camera you have and blah, blah, blah. But that's a photography thing. And this is a woodworking shop, so we don't want the two to get mixed up. People are like, well, don't you miss taking photos? I mean, I still do it. I still go out and take photos. Like I said, a couple of years ago, I went to Nepal and hiked through the Himalayas and took my camera and took photos, and it was an amazing experience. And it was just, you know, to go out and take pictures, and that's why I did it. And well, and to see the Himalayas because it was on my bucket list. So I've gone to some amazing places, and I'm kind of into the travel / landscape photography thing. And you know, for the past couple of years, I've been here in my house, so not really needing pictures of anything in my house. Although I do take pictures of the products that I make, which is what I was doing with my camera. To circle way back around, I was taking pictures of the products that I make so that I can list them for sale. And I do have a little studio set up in my basement where I actually take all those photographs. In fact, I can show you. Let me hop over here. We're going to do a little change. I'm going to hit, I don't know if it'll do it or not. I'm going to hit the web share and see if it's set up for that. It is not set up for the page that I want yet. So I'm going to switch to the page. So hang on just a second. What you're seeing right now is my OBS software. And I need to pick the screen that I want you to see, which I believe is this one. Okay, there you go. So that's the screen I want you to see. And I'm going to, I'll grab my mouse. It's wireless, so I can do this from back over here in the seat. And I'll just give you a preview of, stepping on things, preview of what I did. So this is my page, my Facebook page, where I initially list all of my stuff. I put it on here for about a week to see if I can get anybody who wants to buy them while they're on Facebook, because it just, it's a better shopping experience to me. I don't have to pay seller fees to a company like Etsy or, heaven forbid, eBay. So I can bypass those fees. I charge shipping and such, and I have to pay, like if you pay by PayPal, because I usually issue a PayPal invoice, and that invoice means that you can pay by credit card or whatever, and then there's a fee that gets charged to me, like a 3%, 3.5% fee. I think it's 3.5% for seller fee or processing fee or whatever it is for PayPal. I mean, a lot of people try to use the friends and family thing, but I don't do that. I record this as a sale because, you know, I issue an invoice, and it's a nice, safe way for you to make a purchase and for me to get my money, and then that income gets reported. I get a 1099 and I pay taxes on it and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I'm not trying to avoid the man. It's just a nice way for me to do it. But I do it on here because I avoid the middleman. So I do like to do it on here first. Let me show you, like, so here is some of the photos I took. This is one of the ones. Just a helpful hint, if you are selling stuff, God, get my mouse to work on here. It's kind of, come on. So if you are selling stuff, this was a suggestion by my lovely wife, who is much smarter than I, who said, hey, you know, if you're selling multiple things and you've got ones that look similar, you should put a little card in the corner with a number on it so people can reference which one they actually want. And it makes things a lot easier. You don't get confused. And they say, hey, I'd like that base. And you're like, which one? You're like, the walnut one. You're like, okay, well, there's 3 of them. Oh, well, the one with the swirly thing in the front that goes down, it's like, no. So put a number in there. It makes it easier. So I put a number in there just for the first one, and that way people can reference that. And then I take a series of photographs to show off what I'm doing. So I usually do a front view and then kind of like a 3/4 view from one side. I'll show off the lid because, come on, how awesome is that lid with the book matched walnut there with a really kind of a figured wood thing going on. So nice. And then I'll take it off to show the inside of the storage compartment, which looks really cool. And then I usually get a little low angle on each side. So this showing off the handles, because the handles are also a feature that I want to highlight on there, right? So I want people to see the handle. And then I'll kind of switch it so you get a 3/4 view from the other end so they can see the base from the other side. And then there's another close-up of the handle on that side. Then I'll do one of the back because, you know, they might want to see what the back looks like. And then I'll do one with the machine out, and I just put the lid inside or outside, it depends. I might change it up a little bit. But anyway, I'll do one like this, and then I show the bottom just because some people want to see what the bottom looks like. So that's how I do the photographs for these. Now these are the ones with the lids and the side compartments. So there's a few more photos for those. But if you like come down here, like let me find one. Like, yeah, this is a really simple one. So not as many photos for these. This is one of the sycamore, quarter sawn sycamore, which is beautiful wood, by the way. I mean, look at the kind of cool grain on this. I just love the quarter sawn sycamore. I don't do a stain finish on these. I just do a natural oil finish on these. And I think I use like what do I use on there? Like a teak wood oil or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but anyway, it's a really simple oil finish and it looks really nice. But you can see that grain on here just really accentuates as you see it from different angles. So it has a really cool chatoyance to it, and I love that. But these are the photographs that I take. I try to take quality photographs. And to give people, I mean, they're going to spend a lot of money on this. I think, you know, like this one is listed for $90. That one you saw before is $135 because it's walnut, right? More expensive. And it's more extensive because it has an engraving on there for the Singer logo. And it has the side compartment. And so much more expensive. So I try to give a lot of photographs and details so that when people send me their money, they have a very good idea of what they're buying. So I try to cover all these details and give them, you know, I missed, kind of zip past one. So there's the interior. You know, it's nice. They can see the little corner blocks in here that I use for supporting the machine in these particular ones. And then like I said, the underside. But anyway, that's kind of my thought on photographs. If you're gonna photograph something to sell, take nice photographs. I mean, there's nothing I hate more than trying to buy something and the person has one or two crappy photographs to represent what they're selling. It may be the nicest looking thing in the world, but if the photographs look terrible, I'm not inspired to buy it or to pay their asking price because I'm like, okay, well, you've got a blurry photograph of that thing. How do I know it's really, you know, that nice and in that good a condition? And, you know, I don't understand because, you know, everybody's got the phones today that take amazing photographs. You can do nice photos with a phone. Don't be lazy. If you're going to sell stuff, take some nice photos, put it in a nice location. If you notice all of these photographs, I have a backdrop. Now, yeah, I have a little studio and I have studio lighting with flashes and soft boxes and things like that. But even that, like when I bought my, I've got a Gibson Les Paul guitar, and when I bought it, the guy who I bought it from, I think I bought it on eBay, but the guy had amazing photographs. He took it out into a nice sunny place in his front yard with green grass, but the lighting was great, and then he got really good photographs from all the different angles and showed everything off. It's like, that's all you have to do. Just put it in a nice place. Don't just have it laying with trash around and not cleaning things. I hate it when people want to sell something and it's dusty and whatever. They don't even take the time to wipe it off. My pet peeve. You know, that's the photographer in me saying, you know what, your subject should look really good. So anyway, but that's what I did yesterday. I took a whole bunch of photographs and then I listed them for sale on my page here. So if I close this, you can see that it's, this mouse thing does not work well here. But anyway, I'll scroll through. You can see that they are, hello, scroll, there we go. I've got them all listed in here for sale. That's just a regular posting, but I list them for sale. And generally in there, what I'll do is I'll put a short description of what it is, the price. I always say, hey, the machine and the backdrop quilt are not for sale. They're not included. I tell people to send me a message with the item number. That's why it's on a card, with the item number that they want and their zip code, because I can look up their zip code and see what the shipping will be for them. I don't charge a flat shipping fee. I charge exact shipping. So if it's $10.51 to ship to them, that's exactly what I charge them. I don't charge like, oh, it's $15 flat fee or whatever. Because you never know. Shipping's gotten really expensive, and it only maybe costs me $10 to ship it to Massachusetts, but it would cost me $25 to ship it to Seattle. So I can't really charge a flat fee. It's not fair to the people who live closer to me to charge everybody $25 for shipping, right? So anyway, if you are fortunate enough to live closer to me, you pay less. That's just the way it works. So let me go back to webcam view, and let me get off of this. Hang on, so that I can see. There we go. So I can see what you see. So anyway, that's why I didn't have my camera up, because I was taking photographs and posting them, and that's one of the things that I did yesterday. The other thing I did yesterday, well, I did a couple things. Kind of after the live stream on Wednesday, yeah, it's Friday today. After the stream on Wednesday, and then yesterday, I went ahead and finished all of the lids for these 301 bases. So this is a base for a 301 machine. Oh, doggone it, that's what I meant to do. See, I'm always forgetting to do stuff. I need to run downstairs and grab, okay, bye Spider. I need to run downstairs and grab another machine to show you the difference. I'm gonna have to have them both up here. Yeah, all right, I'll tell you what, give me just a moment. I'm gonna run down and grab another machine and bring it back up here, because I wanna show you how this is a very versatile, it's a simple looking base that is very versatile in terms of the product that goes inside of it. So if you give me just a moment, I'm going to put you in the break time. I'll be right back, and then give me 30 seconds, all right? Maybe 45. And we're back. All right. Sorry about that. So this is what's called a 301 base that we've been working on. And trying to get things out of the way. I just ran downstairs and ran back upstairs. My cardio is not where it needs to be because the weather's so hot. I need to get back on my bike. Anyway, this is made for a short bed machine or a long bed machine. So we had to make lids, which is what we've been doing the past couple of episodes, is working on these lids. The lids accommodate this. This is the short bed. So it sits in here like this. And let's see if I've got this camera on here. I do. So you can see right here in the front, this little bed right here, it only goes this far. And to accommodate this extra space, we make these little lids that fit in here. Now you might be like, well, why don't you just make it shorter? Well, there's a good reason for that. So the reason I don't make it shorter is that it also accommodates something called a long bed machine. So the long bed, and these are a little harder to come by and a little more expensive, and I think a lot more people have the short beds than the long beds. So let me set this off to the side. Oh, hopefully not tip my table over. This is a long bed machine, and it fits in the same place. Golly, the spiders in this place are ridiculous. Little teeny ones that leave just the little floating cobwebs over the air. Oh my God, they drive me crazy. Anyway, long bed machine. Long bed machine take this out, you could actually set it underneath. There's room. Long bed machine goes in like this. So it fills that space all the way to the front. This machine has some hingy issues here, so it doesn't want to lay completely flat. But this is a long bed machine, so you can see that this bed now fills up that entire space, and that gives me much flexibility here. So I can make a base that satisfies two different customers, one maybe with a long bed and one perhaps with a short bed. And I only have to make one base style. The only thing that's different is the little lid that goes in the front. And so adding this gives me basically more customers and less work for me. I mean, I say less work, it's work to make these lids. If you watched the past couple episodes, you've seen it's work to make those lids, but it's worth it because it's easier to make a lid than it is an entire base cut down shorter by, I don't know, what is that, like 2.5 inches? I mean, it's nice because I can make one product, and like I said, it satisfies the needs of two different people with one product. And so that's why I make these like I do. They're really nice. They have a bottom in there. It's a little plywood bottom. So you can see there's a bottom in this thing like this, which just sets in there. These lids just pop in. They just set inside there. They're not full. Oh, this is the one that's not great. I'm going to charge a little less for this one because I used the wrong setting on this one. I'm not thrilled with this one. But anyway, so yeah, so I've got these two different ones right here that, you know, they sit in here. They're really nice. They've got the little notch in here to accommodate for this hinge right here because it kind of goes below the surface of where the bed is. But it's perfect. And so that's why we make them this way. I set this big pig down here. And then I really like the short bed version of it with the with the lid. I think it just looks really great. I just like how this looks. And you just set this in like this, and then this just snugs up in front of it. I mean, it's not a perfect fit. I mean, you can see that. Let me show you again. It's not a perfect fit. There's a little space right in here. But it's close enough to be very functional. And the whole thing is they're sliding fabric and stuff across here as they're sewing. Or they're just, you know, storing things underneath here. But I like because this has a finger hole in it right there that makes removing the lid really easy. You can just reach in and grab the lid like that because there's a finger hole already here. Or if you need to get underneath, you can lift that up, get to your bobbin without having to take this off. Or just take it out and you still got extra space. So that's the story. And that's why I make them this way. So if everyone's like, why do you need a lid if it's, you know, but that's why you need a lid because you've got two different machines and they both can utilize the same base, one with this and one without. And I like it. And because I'm making them, I can make them the way I want. And people seem to like them. So the last ones I did were, dovetail joints on the sides here. So they had dovetail joints. That's how I connected the sides to the end pieces to the front and back. And when I do dovetail joints, I like to use contrasting wood so that you really stand out. So I think the last ones I did were, I think they were maple. There was like a tiger flame maple with a walnut end, and they look really cool. I love the way they look. If you actually go to that page I was just on, you can actually find them. But I had some people asking me if I was going to do any in just a plain wood like cherry. And so I was like, well, I guess I could do that. So when I did that, I was like, well, there's no sense in me doing the dovetails because to me, the dovetail thing is, I do that for a specific aesthetic reason. So I did the standard kind of joinery that I do for all my bases, and which required me to do a little bit different measurement because these end pieces are now shorter because a dovetail, I do through dovetails, so they go all the way to the ends. So the pieces had to be about 1/2 inch longer for the dovetail version. So I had to make some adjustments to my measurements, but everything else turned out really well. And I had to make some adjustments because the bit that I used, I had the wrong. It's different in these because I have to have that rabbit bit fit all the way around here for that machine to set into. So you really want that to be kind of precise. But they've got the same features. You can see they've got handles on the ends here. I do those on the CNC. I cut the lids on the CNC. I cut the little notches for the hinge on the CNC. So there's a little bit more CNC work on here, but I already have the files. So all I have to do is set the wood up in there and they're ready to go. So that leads us to today, and what we're going to do with these. These are square. I'm trying to decide if I want to round the corners or leave them squared up. I'm kind of leaning towards leaving them square, but like just take the edge off. Maybe do like an 1/8 inch round over on there, which is what I need to do on the whole thing. I need to do an 1/8 inch round over on the entire base. Which I would do that anyway because it just takes the sharp edges off and gives it a nice feel. It creates a nice shadow line under the box when it's sitting on a table. It doesn't look like it's part of the table. It actually gives a little visual separation between the two, the base and the table. So it's nice. A shadow line is really kind of it's one of those visual things that looks really good. So I need to sand them. I need to put the route on here, but I think I'm really leaning towards just leaving this the way it is. I've already cleaned these up with a hand plane to make them nice and flush. And I think I might just do that 1/8 inch round over on here just to, I don't know, just to see. I might do one. If it's not enough, I'll break out the 1/4 inch round over and give it a little bit more, or maybe a 3/8 inch round over. I'd have to look and see what it is. But I kind of just like it. I don't know. I'm kind of digging the squared sides on these. My other bases, I usually do a very, very round, it's like a 1 inch rounded profile on there. I use like, whoops, what was that? That was a screw. I use a round over bit like this. That's a big round over, right? So I do a round over like this on my normal ones, and that creates a very, very round profile on the corners. But like I said, that's a different base. So I think I'd have to look. I've got a smaller one here, which I've got this one, which is a smaller, much smaller profile. Let me get it down here so you can see a little bit. That's a much smaller round over, and I could use that one. I also have where are you? This teeny one right here. This is my 1/8 inch with a screw attached to it. This is my little 1/8 inch round over bit. So you can see let me break it down a little bit. It's a very small round over, and it's really just enough to take the edge off. So I don't know. I think I'm going to start with the 1/8 inch. And then if it just doesn't do it for me, we may go up to a 1/4, but yeah. And then, like I said, the big thing is we need to sand these. So they all need to be sanded down to a final thing. Usually what I will do is I will sand them at 120. And then from 120, I will go to 150. And then at 150, I will break out the router table and do the 1/8 inch roundovers. I don't do it earlier because the roundovers get messed up if you if you do the roundovers first, then you go to 120 and 150, usually that will flatten out your roundovers a little bit because you're actually removing a little bit more wood than you want to with that sandpaper if you're trying to maintain that roundover. So I find that it's usually pretty good if I go to 120, then 150, then do the roundovers, and then I do a final sanding at 200. And that generally is all I need to do for these. The other thing is they're not wholly complicated. I mean, it's just 4 sides of the board, right? The interiors have already been sanded. We did that before we did the assembly, which is why I do it, because it would be really hard to sand inside there. So that's already been done. Oh, I need to fill this one. This one, I got a little hole in this one. Not a hole, but a little knot or whatever. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to fill that right now. I'm going to go get my my black CA glue. I've got some Star Bond. It's medium thick, and it's perfect for filling little knots like this, which you can't see. Let me point down a little bit. Doop. There we go. So there's a little knot in this one right here, and we're going to fill that with some, this is, like I said, this is Star Bond, medium thick, but it's black, which is nice because then we can, it just looks like a black knot in there. But I'm going to fill that just so there's not a big void. So stick this in and then let it start filling up and pop the bubbles out. I want it just a little bit on the surface, and then I'll sand it down. But I want it to look about like that. So you can see there's just a little bit of a bubble on the surface. I try to get all the bubbles worked out of it so it doesn't pop and then sink in, and then you're left with a depression. It's not as thick as you thought it was. I do need a little piece of paper to clean that off. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to grab a little bit of this out of the garbage can. It's clean on this edge, just to wipe off the top of the stuff here. Ah, stop sticking to me. All right, put this lid back on here. Now I have some Instant Bond accelerator. So if I wanted to, I could spray it with this. And what that would do, I'm kind of hesitant to do it. I might just let it dry naturally. If you spray this on, this top will be dry. And I can touch it and it won't get on my fingers or anything. It'll feel completely dry. Problem is it won't be dry underneath. And I need this to dry underneath. I don't know if it dries faster if you leave that uncured on top. So we're just going to let that set for a little bit because I have to get to all these others. So I'm going to put this away. Just give me a second. You can check out my baggy jean pants there. Which is funny because I just bought these. They shouldn't be too baggy, but they just kind of... the problem with losing weight is, you know, your clothes get smaller or they get bigger. Not really, but they don't fit as well. And I bought small. These are smaller than my old jeans. I went down a waist size, but men's waist sizes are really kind of weird. So anyway, we got some sanding to do, and then we've got some routing to do. Oh, but I've got another project that I've been working on over here that I haven't finished, but it's kind of at a cool spot. I've kind of showed you this along the way if you've been watching, but let me show you. Well, let me bring this over here. So this is a white sewing machine. I should turn it for you because, you know, so you get to see the front of it. Anyway, this is a project for a friend, and she had this. This came out of a table, and so you can see there's a, let me tip it for you a little bit here. Doot, doot. So you can see this came out of a table, and she's like, I really want to, she's like, I've got a hand crank attachment for it, which is basically a handle you can put on the wheel back here, and then you turn it like this to sew. She's like, but it doesn't really sit on a table the way it is, and can you do anything to make it more better? So I came up with this little kind of a base thing for this piece to sit into, and it actually took a little work to do this. The cool thing is that, like, you can actually take this machine and tip it back like this. So the machine tips back and it doesn't fall over, which is nice. So if you need to get underneath and do stuff, you can. This has a metal tray underneath it. I have not put a bottom in this yet, but I'm going to. I'm going to put a plywood bottom in, just like the other ones. It's already routed for it. I just haven't cut the wood to put in there yet. But anyway, I had to make a groove, much like the 301 bases, for this to sit on, but it's a lot deeper. And then I also had to square out the corners, because remember, the router, the rabbiting bit makes round corners. So I had to square these out. And then, let me get this out of here. Whew. And I'll show you what's going on here. Well, let me show you this. I think I can go to this camera. So on the end of these, right here, you can see there's a little, right there, there's a little pin that sticks out. And there's another one on this side that does the same thing. Just sticks out just a little bit. So when I was making this, I had to come in here and notch out a little bit right in the corner here. And you can, hopefully you can see that, where, I don't know if you can see it or not. I did the route all the way around, but then I had to notch out a little place right here for that little piece of whatever piping or whatever that is that was in there to come down and sit all the way in here. But you can see also how deep this rabbit bit is. It's like almost an inch deep. I think it was like 7/8 of an inch deep on each side for that to set inside there. Now, like I said, this has already been routed around the outside. So you can see there's a ledge going all the way around. So I just need to cut a piece of plywood and put it in here. And, but I was really excited about the way that fit in here. It looks really nice. I sent her a preliminary picture to say, hey, what do you think of this? And she was like, oh, it looks great. I love it. So cool. But that's, this took a lot of work, because I used my rabbiting bit, my big rabbiting bit, and just kept cutting deeper and deeper and deeper. I had to do it in multiple passes, and then I had to use my chisels to chisel out the corners, because like I said, these were rounded corners, because the rabbiting bit, as it comes around a corner, it makes a round pass. I mean, you can see it right here. If you look at that corner is round, right? Well, if you want to put a square board in there, you have to chisel that out and make it square. So I had to do that. And then I had to make that extra little cutout notch for the little piping thing. And so it's something different, which I kind of enjoyed. And it's like, you know, figuring out what I could do to make this work. So I'm going to set this inside here like this. And it just sits right down. It's like perfect in there. I love it. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is clean up this tabletop. Unfortunately, wood like this that's really old, and the finish on here gets really nasty because it's got an old lacquer finish. Is it lacquer? No, it's probably shellac. So it has an old shellac finish on here, and shellac over years gets this crackled, kind of rough alligator skin crackly texture to it. It's just old. I mean, this thing's probably over 100 years old, right? The finish on here. The underside's just plain. I think this is oak. Looks like quarter sawn oak. But it's just crackly and gross. So I asked her if I could clean this up, and she said, sure, do whatever you want. So I will probably start with some alcohol and a little denatured alcohol on some rags. And what that does is it interacts with this shellac and breaks down the shellac and makes it smooth again. But I'll probably end up removing the shellac. And if I have to, I'll take most of that shellac off. And then I will put on some what's called Restore Finish, which kind of, I don't know how to explain Restore Finish. It's kind of like a stain and a shellac, and I don't know. It's got solvents in it, and it's kind of the stuff that you use to restore the finish on furniture. But something like this is too far gone with all that crackling, so I have to really get the alcohol out, break down that lacquer or shellac on top, and then if I take a lot of the color off, I'll just sand it lightly, and then we'll restain this along with staining the base here. So that'll be kind of interesting. I haven't done that. I don't do restoration stuff like this. Um, my wife has done more of that than I have because she works on the machines and tables and such. I just normally just build bases. But that'll be kind of interesting and fun to try to clean this up. And it'll just live in here from that point on because this is going to be a hand crank machine. So that's kind of cool. And then she'll clean up the machine. I'm not cleaning the machine up. I mean, I might wipe my sawdust off of it, but I'm not going to clean the machine off. That's up to her because that's a whole different. That's a whole process in itself, cleaning the machines. That is not for me. But anyway, that's I worked on that yesterday mostly, and got this fitting in there, and was really happy with that. So this will get the same thing though. I still have to, like I said, I still have to put the bottom in. So I got to go over and get a piece of plywood out of my sheet goods stack over there, cut it to size, round the corners, glue it in. So I got to do that. And then I will sand the sides down and do the little 1/8 inch round over all around here, stain it, and then I'll start cleaning this up. And but she's really cool about it. She's like, oh, there's no rush at all, and please just don't make that dominate your life. I was like, well, it won't. I said, I just kind of threw it in there because it was, a lot of this was the same construction process that I used for the other bases. And so I could just kind of do a lot of that as we went. But anyway, it was fun. It was cool. I like that. And I was very pleased with the result, right? Because it fit in there really nicely. So, all right. Well, enough of the chit chat. We should probably do some work here, right? It's stupid hot in the shop, and it's not going to get any cooler. Like, holy crud, has it been just ridiculously hot in here? It's already almost 82 degrees in the workshop this morning. I mean, that was my morning temp. I walked in and it was like 80. I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. You just want it to be a little bit cooler. Yeah, the hot weather, I mean, I guess I can't complain. I can go in the house and walk into air conditioning and, so there's a lot of people who have it a lot worse than I do. But I do have things I want to do, and I can't really do them while I'm sitting here suffering in the heat. Like I want to go ride my bike, and because I've got a bike trip planned, and I need to get in bicycle health, I like to say. So I need to get my riding stamina up because I'll be riding like 40 to 50 miles a day for a week and a half. And so I need to start getting in shape for that. That's not coming until this next month, maybe September, October. I haven't figured out the exact time frame. But anyway, but sitting in the house in the air conditioning doesn't help. All right, let me clean up some of this stuff, and then we are going to do some sanding because we need to. It's one of those necessary evils. It is a necessary evil to sand. And then we can, once we get all these done, we can start routing these things. Let me do one thing real quick, and that is to check the level of my dust collector here to make sure that I'm not just piling shavings into the main bucket, because that's not helpful. Yeah, probably could use an emptying here. So let me open this up. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We got to go empty this. Because I've done a lot of things like on the jointer and such, so there's a lot of dust in there. It's pretty full. It's probably dumped some over already. So I'm going to bring this over to my trash can and create a lot of dust in the air, unfortunately. That's just the way this goes. So I'm going to turn this fan on. And hopefully suck that through my filter there. Which I need to change my filter. Need to change that dust collection filter. It is pretty caked up now and not very efficient. But that's empty, so we've got a long way. Sanding is not going to fill this thing up. We can sand for quite a while. But what we do need to do is bring this over. And like I said, we're going to start with a 120 on here. That's a 150. And I have a 120 over here somewhere. These do not need an 80. They're definitely not in rough shape. But a 120, well, that one's kind of not the best one. Let me see if I can find a 120 here. Oh, there it is. So here's my 120. And start with a 120. We're just going to do the 4 sides here. And we will do this. I will do these, like I'll do the bottom of this, and then I'll put it in and do it as it sits in the base so that I'm not messing with the level of it so that it stays at the same level. I also want to be careful when I'm sanding the top of this because this lip right here is the perfect depth right now for matching up with the machines, and I don't want to sand too much on here and lower this down. So that's why it's going to be lightly sanded on the tops here. In fact, I may do this part by hand. That might be what I do. We'll see. All right, I've got this connected. I've got the power connected. I do need my ears. So I've got those. And I need my pencil so that I can draw some lines on here and then sand those off. And that's how I know that I have sanded enough. The wood is cherry. Cherry sands really well. So I don't anticipate this being too difficult of a process. And I have a camera over here. We can do it on this camera, or I'll switch between the two. All right. Oh. Well, I'm very concerned because my sanding, my disc sander here, my random orbital disc sander is making some peculiar noises and doing some bad things. I think the bearings are getting ready to go out on it. Hang on, I got to come over here and check something. But I think the bearings may be getting ready to go on that thing because it's making noises that it shouldn't make. And that noise removal, I'm going to turn that noise removal filter up. Yeah, it's making noises, and it's giving me like some, like typically it has a pressure gauge, like so you can see how much pressure you're putting down on it, how much downforce pressure. But I was barely having it down, and it said my pressure was like, it actually went all the way up into the red. It's like, you're going too hard. I'm like, no, I'm barely touching it. So anyway, that's a little concerning because you don't want that to happen, right? I'm going to go ahead and just kind of not change the paper out. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of keep sanding on these and see, because if that goes out, I'm kind of dead in the water and I have to go out and buy a new one. And I mean, I could probably run out to the hardware store and get one. Like I could go to Lowe's or Home Depot and pick one up. I mean, I'd rather not have to if I don't need to. So we'll see. But that was a little, like I said, that was a little rough because it shouldn't make those noises. It should act better than that. One thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take this stiff brush and I'm just going to clean off the pad. And all that does is gets the rest of the dust out of the grit. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to go check and make sure my son's awake and ready to go to work. Give me just a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, we're all good. He was up and ready for work, so walking out the door right now. You know, kids, what are you going to do? Okay, I mean, we're doing pretty good here. I've got 3 done. I have 2 more to go. This one with the, get this one with the stuff on top. I don't know if that one's going to be ready to go or not. I'm going to touch it. Just, oh, it's still wet. Still wet. I'm going to spray that down. I've just decided I'm going to spray it with the accelerator. I don't know how deep that accelerator actually penetrates, but I'm going to spray it down here. There we go. So hopefully, I might have to save the sanding on this particular piece until the very last. But this is, so you can see now I can touch this. It's still, I can feel it. It's still soft underneath. But as far as the top goes, it's not, well, you can't see that, right? Now you can. So I sprayed this with the accelerator, and you can see as I rub my finger across, I don't get any of that on me, but it's still, I can feel it still a little soft under the surface there. So it's going to take a while for that to cure. I'm going to go ahead and sand the base. I'm not going to sand this until later because I want that to be hardened. I want that to be, you know, basically acrylic in there, not as soon as I break through that top surface, it's going to get everywhere, and that's not a good look. So I'm going to do the surface of this, and then I will move on to, or the surface, I'll do the base. I'll save that one for last. I have this one and then the walnut to do, and those are the last in the 120. Then I'm going to move to the 150. I know, this is exciting TV. I'm glad you all stuck with me. But I don't even know. Can I see here? I wonder if I can see this. Hang on a second. Let me see something here. Anyway, I think I'm the only one watching my stream here. Which is fine. If y'all are watching later, that's awesome. And pull that one back up. Come on, this is must-see TV. Everybody wants to watch somebody sand something. Sorry, this is the way it is. You know, when you're actually doing real stuff in a real workshop, you know, you can't edit out that part. It's just there. So all these people in these woodworking videos that you watch, and it's like, here, let me sand. And then like, you know, 10 seconds later, they're moving on to the next step. Well, yeah, because they're editing out the 3 hours of sanding they did because they don't want you to have to watch that. But this is a live stream. I don't really have that choice. And this is what I do. So anyway, let's get back to it because it doesn't get done with me sitting here talking. Okay, so walnut being a much harder wood, more dense, a harder wood than the cherry, I'm going to go to an 80 grit to get some of this preliminary sanding done, and then I will switch back to the 120 because this is a little challenging with just the 120 on the first run. There's some little rougher areas here with some tool marks and such that I want to get rid of, but I find that I'll be there forever with the 120. I'm going to start with an 80. I've just got like this sand net stuff, but it's an 80 grit, a little bit more coarse. I'm going to start with that, and then I'll switch back to the 120 because, like I said, it's a harder wood, so sanding takes longer, but I won't be wearing the wood down like cherry. If I use the 80 on the cherry, it's too aggressive, but it's not too aggressive on the walnut. So I'll start with this on the walnut. All right. Yeah, that made a big difference in terms of getting a lot of those tool marks and stuff cleaned up off of here. Because honestly, um, that was it was going to be a lot of work with just the 120. So yeah, the sand net. The only thing I don't like about these is the hook and loop, the loop part on here, just tends to stop being as attached, and it gets all flappy and stuff. So you don't get, once it loses its stiffness, they don't stay adhered to the pad. And there's a lot of hook on here. You know, I don't like saying Velcro because that's a brand name. It's not Velcro, but it's hook and loop. And like these things, they don't come off. They stay pretty well attached. But that stuff, it just, the loop on there tends to lose its veracity. It doesn't stay as much as it used to. I'm going to finish this with some 120. I'm just going to hit it, and then we're going to clean up those 80 marks on there, and then we can move on to a 150 after that. Okay, that is the 120s done. Hey, very exciting stuff. Just make sure there's nothing going on in the world that I need to know about. There's not. So then we can move up to a 150. And like I said, once I hit the 150 mark, then it's time to do some, what time is it here? 12:30. So once I do some 150, then it's time to move on to the router. And then the router will do the 1/8 inch round over bit. I'm just cleaning out any sawdust out of this and exposing all that nice fresh grittiness in there. But we'll do the 150, we'll do the 1/8 inch round over, and then we can finish with a 220. And remember, when you're sanding, you know, the whole purpose of moving through the grits is you're always removing the sanding marks of the previous grits sandpaper. You're never actually getting to smooth wood. The scratches become more and more fine. It's never perfect. I mean, you could go to 20,000 grit and you'll still have 20,000 grit scratches. You just need a microscope to see them. And it feels like it's smooth as glass, but it's just really super fine scratches. So that's what we're doing. We're just removing some scratches here. This one had the 80. Like I said, the 80 on this one, because really stinking hard wood, I needed something a little bit more aggressive, and I didn't really worry about it changing the wood profile. If I did 80 on the cherry, it might actually make indentations and stuff if I press too hard in an area, because it's going to remove a lot more of that softwood than it does this hardwood. But now we're on to the 80 or the 150. I'm just going to draw some lines on here real quick. You know, I do this when I sand. It just lets me know, A, if I've sanded that side yet or not, because sometimes it gets hard to tell, especially when you start getting into the finer sandpapers. But B, it also, when I have that when I have those pencil marks removed, I'm pretty confident that I could actually go ahead and move to the next side. The other thing is that the coarser the wood, the harder and the longer you have to sand to get rid of those pencil marks. The finer the wood is, the faster those marks come off. So as you're starting with an 80 grit sandpaper, it might take you longer to sand with an 80 grit than it would with a 120, than it would with a 150. The 150 maybe half the time it took with the 80. It gets easier to sand because, like I said, you're just removing scratches at this point now. You're not really having to do any you know, removing tool marks or anything like that. So, all right, let's go. Mercy. It is warm in my garage. It's about 85 degrees in here, so it's getting pretty warm in here. I've got some fans blowing all over the place, so it kind of keeps the air circulating. But you know, when you're just blowing hot air, it doesn't really help too much. We're getting there on this. We're getting there. I think what I'm going to do just to kind of round this out for everybody who might be watching, is instead of making you watch me sand the rest of these, let's set them over here. These all need those three. Whoops, there goes my sander. Those three still need to have some 150 sanding done to them. But these two, with the exception of the lid on this one, these two are already done with the 150. So I think what I'm going to do is do the roundovers. And actually, you know what? I take that back. I did not do the bottom of this one. I forgot to, I was doing the other one. I was like, oh, I didn't hit the bottom. I'm just going to hit the bottom of this one really quick. And then I'm going to go set up the router table to do the 1/8" roundovers on these. So let me do this really quick. It really doesn't require a whole lot of effort from me. I just like to make sure I knock off any rough wood off the bottoms of them. So anyway, these are done. This one and the one over there. And then I've got to set up this table here. So let me move this out of the way. I'm going to set it over here because, well, that's how I watch you all interacting and sending me all those thousands of questions that I need to answer. Not really. I also don't have a camera set up over here. Let me give you all a camera. I'm going to walk over to the other side. I've only used 2 cameras today. So let me turn this one on and put it over here on the router table so you can see that. It'll just take a second. Zoom out just a little bit. That's probably good right there. That's good. Okay. So we're going to set up the router table with the 1/8" bit. And let me change over to that camera that I just put in the loop. There it is. And we do not need this piece of wood. But what I do need to do is, let's see. I'm going to take this off. My hands are like vibrating. I was doing so much sanding. And I think this is the one I need for, well, yeah, I think this is the one. But we're going to go ahead and raise the bit, bring that whole collet up above the table here. Let me take these ears off for a minute. Oh, my fingers are all tingly from sanding for so much. Ugh, so weird feeling. That should lock in. It does. And then I'll get my wrench from the side over here, and we will loosen this collet up. It's really weird. It like you do once and it breaks free, and you can hand turn it, and then it's like it's tight again, and you break that free, and then you can hand loosen it the rest of the way. So here's the big giant rabbiting bit that I was using, and I'm going to take out the 1/2" collet because that is not needed for this next piece. We're going to use a 1/4" collet. The collet is basically as you squeeze this down, it tightens against the bit and keeps it from moving loosely inside the collar there. You want it to move a little bit. Well, you don't want it to move. You want it to turn with the collet so that you can make your cuts. You don't want it spinning independent of that. Like right now, you can see this is kind of tight, but this is spinning. So that would not be acceptable. I'm going to raise this up a little bit, and then I'm just going to tighten it down with my wrench. And now you can see it doesn't turn independent of the collet. All right. Then we will lower this down. And is this too big? I think I can use the smaller one. Let me check and see. I've got another collar here. No. Just almost, but not quite. So I'm going to go back to that one again. So this one is the one. This in. I have to lower it down some more for it to fit. There we go. Okay, lock that in. And what we need to do now is adjust this so that that edge is going to interact with the edge of the wood to the point where it just slides under the cutting edge, or the cutting edge just slides under the wood. So you can see right now, hopefully you can see that, it's tapping against that wood. And I want it so that it just slides under, just like that. So you see how that slides under now? So watch, tapping, and then try it again. So it just slides under right there. You want it down enough so that you're going to get a rounded profile. If it's too high, you're going to get a line. It'll make an edge line where the edge of this cutter cuts into your wood. You don't want that edge line, and that's not something you're going for, but typically you just want the round part, which means you lower it down till that cutting edge is just below the surface here. And that allows the whole thing to ride up that bit and rest against that, that bearing, which is your guide. Now I'm going to make a test cut to make sure that I'm not getting that little line in the piece of wood, because like I said, that is not something that you want. So I'll just use this piece of wood right here. It's nice and flat. Okay, I've got the router plugged in. I've got my dust collection just kind of hanging out here. It's not going to do a lot, but it might catch the random chip flying out. So let me do a test cut. Let me put my wrench away. We'll do a test cut just to check the edge, and then we'll, if it looks good, we'll just bring the base over and start cutting. Okay, so let me bring this over, and hopefully you can see when I bring this into your view. Here it is, right there. And it'll focus. So you can see, it's actually nice because it's got that blue painted edge there. So you can see how it's got this really nice, just a soft, rounded profile right there. And that's what we're after. And on the bottom, there's no line. So it's set deep enough so that I'm just getting, focus. I'm just getting this very nice, soft round over right here. And that's what we're after. So let's go take this base. And like I said, I think we're going to also do this. I think I always do it on the bottom and the top, right? But I think I'm going to do this on the corners as well. And I'm going to start with the corners just to see how that looks. Okay, let me bring this over and just show you. I'm going to bring it on this camera right here. So we did that little bit on the corner. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't look, there's some little lines and such on there, but when I get the 220 out, it'll smooth all this out. But I kind of like that little bit of, just a tiny bit of profile right here in the corner. Not much. I kind of dig that. And then the bottom and the sides, this one, this side, I need to push it down on this one a little bit more. It didn't quite come in. Problem is, if your wood has a little bit of a dip or whatever, and it's not going to be flat against that bit as you're running it through the table, if it isn't exactly flat to the table, you're going to miss out on that profile. So I'm going to try to push down on here, run it through a little bit more. Let's see if I can get this cleaned up. That was better. Little bit. I just wanted to put a little bit more downward pressure on there to really get it to interact with the bit. So this is really pretty much, like I said, almost done. I got to do a 220 sand on there. That one's completed. Ooh, I am just filthy. Okay, let's go ahead and do the cherry base here. And then, like I said, that will pretty much be the process that I'm going to follow for all of them. So I'll do the corners, and then I will do all along here. So let me switch back. So as I said, I'm going to do the corners, these sides right here, and then I'll turn them flat and do the profiles all the way around. Okay, and I mean that's the process right there. It's super subtle. It's not a big profile roundover, but that's what I really like. Let me go back to this camera for a second and see. So when I set this down, you'll see that it gives just a little bit of a shadow. If you look at the edge of the base, there's a little bit of a dark line around the bottom of the base. And that is a shadow line. And that shadow line creates separation between your piece and the table, as opposed to what's something flat. Like this piece of wood is flat, and you can see there's not that dark line around the bottom. It's just flat on here. So it's just a small little thing, but it does make a difference, unless you're trying to make it look like it's part of the table. But anyway, yeah, so this is the profile done all the way around. Very nice, very easy, really nice on the corners there. The only thing you have to watch with cherry is that if you leave it in one place too long, cherry burns quickly. Oh, the other thing I'll need to do is I'll come back with a piece of sandpaper by hand, and I will break the edge on these handles because they're sharp. They were cut with the CNC machine, and they've got a very nice sharp profile right there. So I will come back with just a piece of like 120, and like here we go. Like I'll take like this right here, and I'll just come back and break that edge just like this. And once that edge is broken, you know, I don't go crazy sanding it. I just don't want it to be sharp. So just like that, that's pretty much all I do to those edges. Just kind of at a 45-degree angle, take that sharp edge off of them. And that's really all that's necessary for them, is just break that edge, because I don't want anybody, you know, not thinking it doesn't feel comfortable to lift it up. So just like this, just break that edge. And that's all the work that goes into those edges right there. I don't need to get any other grits of sandpaper or anything else involved. I can do it all with a piece of 220, and life is good. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that with this one just so I'm in the same place with all the bases here. This might take a little bit more effort because it is walnut, but even still, it's not, you know, actually it's not too bad. It gets hot, that's a lot of friction, but I just work these corners, these edges, just like this with my finger, and then that is buttery smooth, and that's not going to bother anybody, not at all. So let me get this side, do the exact same thing. And like I said, I'm just coming across that angle at about a 45-degree pitch, and it's just knocking that sharp edge down. That's all I'm doing. Just get it down. It'll be a friendly edge. It'll be a Mr. Rogers friendly neighborhood edge. One that you'd like to have in your home for a visit. All right, I think that feels nice. I'm going to just take it up the edge just a little bit. There we go. That is buttery smooth and delicious. It's magically delicious. All right, what time is it? 1:10. All right, I have time for one more thing, and we will go back to sanding. I know that excites you immensely, but so the last thing we need to do here is do a little sanding with some 220 grit. You probably can't read that, but it is 220 grit. And I'll tell you what, I will just do one base. Just going to do one, and I'll do the other ones later. So we're just kind of working our way to getting these done, but I've got the whole weekend to get these to the point where they're finished, because the last thing to do after this is just stain them. But I want to show you something before I'm done. So I'm going to take the 150 off. Let me see. You know what? Let me grab a fresh, because this is walnut. I'm going to grab a fresh 220. Sometimes I can get away with using like the one for a little while, but this one, because it is walnut, I'm going to get a nice fresh 220 on here, and then no excuses. No excuses. There we go. All right. Oh, I need to switch the power from the router table back to the sander. All right, we are powered. We have dust collection. Let's go. Oh, you know what else I need to do? Just real quick. Do this. Make my little pencil line without breaking my pencil lead. Because, like I said, it's just a nice visual indication that I have sanded enough and that I've sanded all the sides. So I am going to do just a little bit of hand sanding on this because I want to make sure that, oh, golly, I took the wrong part of this out. I want to make sure I'm getting a nice tight, my little cup thing fell off here, not nice tight, nice profile on my rounded edges. So the way to do that is to basically just take my little sanding pad here. I'm going to take that 120 that I was thinking of using. I'm just going to take that and put it on here. And I'm just going to ever so gently go around the edges and make sure that they still feel nice and soft and they didn't get, so just nice and easy. The router bit did most of the work. I'm just kind of cleaning that up a little bit like this and just kind of cleaning those edges up a little bit. Because sometimes when I come back with the sander, it can have a little bit of a tendency to flatten that because it is such a subtle round over that it can have a tendency just to flatten it just a hair. And I like to hit the corners and make sure that they still look good, which they do. But I'm going to show you one more thing on this base before we sign off for the day. And also sometimes I just like to hit these just on the corners just to make sure that they feel nice and round. But yeah, just kind of, you know, just play with these profiles a little bit, just really softly. I come back and forth. I can also just give some nice long straight sanding to the wood here, because that kind of makes sure that there's no leftover little teeny swirl marks. I'm not doing a lot. You can see it's just very little. But with the grain, same thing up here, just kind of with the grain, hit those corners a little bit. And then just corners. I just want to have a really nice soft to the touch profile is what I want. Okay, let me clean this off really quick. Blowing up. Oh, the thunder's blowing up. I was like, what are all these messages? Because I got my watch on, like I got all these messages and stuff. It's like, well, because there's a thunderstorm alert. Thunderstorm watch. That doesn't surprise me. Nasty as it is out here today, I would expect, and it's humid too. So thunderstorm watch doesn't surprise me. All right, I'm going to do one last thing here for you all. I'm walking over to my little cabinet here where I keep all of my fluids, and I'm looking for my naphtha. There we go. I'm going to get a couple of paper towels, and I like to do this for two reasons. One, I'm cleaning the wood, and two, it gives a nice preview of what this will look like with some oil on it. It doesn't look the same with like if I was going to do a stain finish like on the cherry, but on walnut, this looks awesome. So really just kind of soak my rag in the naphtha and then watch the wood come alive. I mean, that is some beauteous looking walnut right there. I'm trying to get it so you don't have quite the sheen on it, so you can see the wood. But this also, you can see how dirty my rag is, right? So it gets a lot of the dust and dirt off, and it lets me see kind of how that walnut's going to look, which is always awesome. So that looks great. So I'm just going to keep going around and cleaning this off. I use naphtha. It's kind of like what do they call it? Thins enamels and varnish, cleans greasy, waxy, oily surfaces and machine parts. It kind of does a lot of things, but the one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't raise the grain. It stinks. It's basically like lighter fluid. But yeah, look at how lovely that looks right there. It's awesome. So I'm gonna just rub this all down, and then I will clean the top. This, and let me show you let me grab the little machine here. Let's put this little puppy up here. I'm gonna do it, switch it around, put it this way, put this in, and I'm gonna clean off this piece, right? And let you see it. So like I said, this just gives a nice preview of what, if you, especially with walnut and stuff, gives a beautiful preview of what your wood is going to look like after you put some finish on it. So if I, let me just get a little bit more, soak this in here. There we go. So if you look at this now, that's kind of what this is going to look like. Once it gets all done, it'll look like this. And that looks pretty darn awesome. So there you go. So really that's what's left for this one, is for me to put a finish on it. And this one's done. It looks great with the machine in there. The other thing I like about naphtha, you can see it's already turning back. The color on it is turning back to its kind of a lighter grayer, because the naphtha flashes off pretty quickly. And that's one thing I like about it, is that you can clean your wood and you don't have to wait forever for it to dry. It dries up pretty quickly, probably twice as fast as mineral spirits, which is why I like using it over mineral spirits. A lot of people do this with mineral spirits, and I get that, but mineral spirits does not dry as fast. I mean, this is already dry. So yeah, that's how fast this kind of cleans off. It's kind of like alcohol in that respect. Like if you want to use denatured alcohol to clean something, because it just flashes off really quickly. And mineral spirits, they just last longer. They have a little bit of a, it's not really oily, but there's something to them that they just don't flash off as quickly. So I prefer to use the naphtha. That's just my weapon of choice. And I do this before I do any oiling or staining or anything on all my pieces of wood, just to get any oils or stuff that shouldn't be on there, to get them cleaned out, and the dust and such that keeps the stains from penetrating, and basically just all this stuff that you see on the rag. I try to get all that off so that it is just the prepped wood surface that we're dealing with. This will be really easy. I'm just going to get some Danish oil and slap Danish oil on this puppy, and it'll be done. Well, it won't be done. I'm going to put a lacquer top coat on there, but the Danish oil is a pretty easy process, because it just like the naphtha, all you do is get a rag and you just coat it with Danish oil. Just rub it all over, and rub it on. You can rub it on as thick or thin as you want. The thing is, when you're done, you wipe it down with the towel, and then you can come back. I can't remember how long it is. Anyway, you can come back like in 15 minutes, put on a second coat, wait about 10 minutes, wipe off the rest of it, and then you're done. There's really no reason to put any more on, especially if you're going to top coat it. You can put another coat on. Like I will use a dark walnut, which gives a little bit, it has a little bit of a color to it, but not much. And once you get it on the first time, it doesn't get any darker with each application. But Danish oil has varnish in it, and that varnish soaks into the wood and provides internal protection to that wood. It's just basically kind of like a moisture barrier in that wood. It soaks into the cell structure of the grain. And so you've got like a locked in internal varnish protection. And then once I let that all cure for about a week, 5 days, 5 to 7 days, somewhere around there, I let that cure. And that means that all the oils and stuff have now dried up and then I can go and put a nice lacquer finish on top of it. And the lacquer just adds a nice level of protection on top of the base against humidity and water and oils and other such things. So fingerprints and everything else. Just to show you this base, I actually fixed this one with some of that dark black CA glue, super glue. So right here there was a knot, and I filled that and sanded it. But when it actually has like the oil and stuff on there, you can see that that's going to be dark, and you won't even really notice that. It just kind of blends in with the aesthetic of it. It just looks like a knot hole, right? So that's the beauty of using, you know, the CA glue to fill a knot hole, is it looks really natural once you're done. But this is nice and smooth. Like I said, the 220 is about as smooth as I need to go on these, because they're going to get a lacquer finish on top of that, and the lacquer finish is going to impart an even more smooth surface. Although the thing I like about the lacquer is the semi-gloss, so you still kind of have that wood feel. It doesn't feel plastic. That's why I don't like using glossy. Glossy just kind of has a plastic feel to it to me, so I don't like that. But anyway, what have we got? 85 degrees, 130. So we did our 2.5 hours today. I'm sorry it was just so much sanding. I know that's probably not the best thing. So if you stuck around through the sanding, bless your heart. You are a patient soul. I'm just turning this back on because most people wouldn't stick to that. But that is, I mean, I can't skip it. It's part of the process, right? So if you're here watching me, you're just watching me go through the process. This isn't how to make a, because I would edit all that out if it was. I mean, I've got an entire series on my YouTube channel on making this bench right here, and I cut a lot of stuff out of that. It's not, I mean, it's 10 parts to it because there's a lot of pieces that I had to cut and engineer and put together and stuff. But honestly, you know, the entire thing, if I did it beginning to end, would be like 20 hours of video. So it's much shorter than that. And that's the beauty of people who do YouTube videos on making projects and stuff, is they can leave out the boring parts that are repetitive. Like, I'm going to sand this, just do that for all the pieces, and boom, they're on to the next step. But when you're live streaming, that is nothing. Oh, I just got a cool lightning bolt sign on my watch that says, yeah, I guess it's going to get ugly out there. But that's a good thing, because supposedly it's supposed to get cooler this weekend. So hopefully anybody who's in the area, I'm going to be, I think, out of the area. I am going to be out of the area. That's not even a think. But it'll be cooler this weekend and into next week. So fingers crossed that the temps go down a little bit and life gets a little bit cooler. If it's hot where you are, I hope you have AC and that you're staying cool. But if you're down in South America, you know, bundle up. It's cold down there, right? It's winter. Okay, I'm going to wrap it for the day. It's Friday. I need to go get some lunch. I'm hungry. And then I'm going to finish. So list for me, finish all those with 150 grit, round the edges on the router, sand them to 220 along with this one right here that's waiting. I also have to sand off the super glue on this one right here, but that's easy. And then once I get them all to this point, then it's just a matter of putting finish on. Those will get stained. I've got a Kona stain that I use on those, so it'll be a nice dark, rich cherry. Well, that's not cherry. It's a very dark, it almost looks like a walnutty dark. But those will look beautiful. This will look beautiful. And then I'll stick them in the basement and let them cure for a while. Lacquer them. Those are pretty much, this is the last you're going to see of these. We're going to move past these until they're done. I'll show them to you when they're done, maybe after I've stained them or whatever. But this is the last you're going to see of this particular set of bases. Because I have to move on to other projects. I can't, you know, I'm kind of at a point now where there's not really much for you to look at here. I'm just trying to fix this little tiny edge right here. You know, the more I look at stuff, the more little things bug me too. That's the other reason I need to move on, because otherwise I would just be looking at these going, oh, well, I got to fix this and that. And Yeah. Stop it. So I'm going to move on to, I don't know what I'm moving on to yet. So I'm going to look and see. I've got some other projects. I need to finish this big tabletop thing, and I'm going to be trying to clean that off, the old shellac part off, and refinish that. I don't know if maybe I'll share that with you. I don't know. I've got some other projects that I've been working on that I need to get to. I've got people saying, hey, can you make some other bases for the standard? And I'm like, this will be 16 bases in, well, no, it's not 16. This is 16, 17, 18, 19. This is 21 bases in the past couple of months. And for me, that's a lot. That's cranking out products. I mean, it's great because I get the money, but it gets old after a while. And I need to do some other things. I've got other projects. I mean, I slip them in every now and then. You don't see me doing them. But I'd like to do some other stuff on stream for you guys. Even if it's just something stupid like, hey, make a cutting board, or, you know, out of scrap wood or something like that. I mean, that could be fun, right? So anyway, I'm going to dig through my piles of wood, come up with an idea, and maybe on Monday, if you come back, we'll do something a little different and try to figure out some different projects to work on. I got some guitars that just need some love over here. I haven't done anything with them. So anyway, let's wrap for the weekend. Have yourselves a really great, safe weekend. If you're going out into a crowded public place, please wear your mask. If you haven't gotten your shot yet, please, for the love of God, you're not going to die from that shot, but you might from COVID. So get your shot. Seriously. I've got mine. And if I have to get a booster, I'll get the booster too. Because you know what? It sucks to be sick, and it sucks to make other people sick, especially when we have something to prevent it. So please take care of yourself, take care of your families, take care of your loved ones, take care of your friends, your families, and take care of the strangers. And then come back and visit me on Monday, because we'll do something fun. All right. Have a good weekend. Take care. See you soon.